All righty. I think I'm on here. I'm trying something completely new today. And so work with me while I make sure I got the technology going the way that I need it to be able to go. But welcome. I'm so glad to have you with me tonight. We are going to get into some topics where we're gonna talk candidly, quite frankly, about what's going on in our relationships. Specifically in the Black community. So y'all give me a minute. I think I got everything working on these varieties of channels. If you with me, put a period in the comments. Let me just make sure that I actually am catching y'all across these networks. So I'm gonna try to get everything synced together before we get ready to begin. Make sure I got all my notes with me so that we can dig deep. Let me get my whiteboard situated to make sure that I have one of those at my disposal. Whiteboard, no markers. Now that ain't that something. That's usually how it go, ain't it? All right. Only see a white screen. Okay, thank you. Wait a minute. That's what I need to know, Coffee. See, all this technology. All right. Let's see here. Let's see here. Only see a white screen. How about now? All right. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's see here. All righty. Well, see, I guess it pay to have somebody check it out for you, the way you make sure you know what you're doing before you start doing stuff. Can you see me on the white screen? Am I visible? No, I'm not visible. All right. Well, boy, technology pays, I tell you that. How about this? Can you see me now? Can y'all see me now, family? It looks like I'm on to myself. I can see myself now. Oh, I look good to myself. Yes, indeed. All right. All right. It's good to see y'all. Yes, we are here. We live and popping now officially. We are about to get into a very deep study of a book that is near and dear to my heart called The Spirit of Intimacy by Sobonfu. But before we dive into the book, I thought it was very pertinent for us to be able to have a conversation about what actually is happening in our community, in our state of affairs, and the things that are going on with us, amongst us, around us, with the ways we are processing our relationships, with the effects that we're seeing. Okay. So, y'all give me 2 seconds. Okay. Now, if y'all see me looking back and forth, okay, it's because I got an Instagram going over here, and I got a Facebook and a YouTube and Twitter happening over here. So this is my first official time attempting to stream across all the networks at one time. But I promise you, once I got this thing together, it's up from here. Okay. So not that you all are my guinea pigs or anything like that, but systems take time to optimize. And so I appreciate y'all for working with me in this endeavor because um we got to figure it out. But it's also why the class is completely free. You feel me? completely free. So what I am excited about is the fact that I get to give this information away for free, right? So not only did I get a chance to digest it, but to sit and to process it and to consume it and to get it in. And hopefully the fruits of what comes out of this is something that is useful for us all. What I will say is these lives will only be up through Valentine's Day. Okay. So if something is said tonight and you really liked it and you want to share with somebody, you want them to be able to tap in and check it out, you're gonna have to let them know to come check it out ASAP because it ain't gonna be up forever. And it will go back up in a week. But it will be packaged and it will not be free anymore. And so y'all give me 2 seconds. I was trying to figure out how to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I don't know that I do it enough for it to come regular, but I don't want it to disturb the Instagram. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and hit the button over here. And then we're gonna go ahead and hop to it. I appreciate y'all for being patient with me tonight. The price is going up. Somebody gotta say it again. Hey, swear to God. Listen, 2 seconds, y'all. I almost feel like I should let y'all hear some original music as a I apologize for the wait. Give y'all some elevator music. Yeah, that might actually not be a bad idea. Hold on. Let me see what I got for y'all. Y'all want like something, you know what? Y'all don't even get to decide. I would like to say I do own the rights to all these music, everything you're about to hear right now played. Oh, snap. Okay, the Instagram is popping. Y'all over here. All right. So, y'all give me a moment. Y'all will see me going back and forth. I just explained to them on this other side that we have multiple streams happening. I don't know what I'm doing, y'all, but I'm here and I'm glad to be doing it. So, I also think I got some version of a PowerPoint now. Instagram, this the unfortunate part. Y'all just gonna have to hear me talk because I'm not able to. Instagram don't let people add stuff today. They broadcast, so that's very unfortunate. But like I said, I'm just grateful y'all here with me. So how everybody doing tonight? If you are here with me, hey, not your highness, I'm honored. Thank you. If you on here with me on Instagram, make sure you say hey, tap in with me. Okay. We're getting ready to begin. I am getting all my contraptions in one spot. All right. If y'all over here with me on Instagram, hey, I was about to tell y'all put a period in the comments, but y'all already coming through with your Black Power fist, with your peace, with all the love and the responses. So I'm here. We're gonna be here for a little while tonight. So make sure you got your pen and some paper and some snacks and shit. Get everything you need. Okay, because that's what I'm trying to do. Because we're gonna be locked in for a little while. Locked in for a little while. Oh, my skin looks so clear on here. I like this one. But yeah, all right. So y'all, thank y'all for being here with me on this evening. Hey Rick, my favorite DJ in all the land. But yeah, appreciate y'all for being here with me. I got the periods going. I got the haze and the hello. So like I said, I'm glad to have y'all with me. This is a 3-day study that we're about to do on the spirit of intimacy and a real life conversation on what's happening with relationships within our community. Um, we got so many questions about so many things and why stuff ain't working and coming together the way it used to or it could have or all these hypothetical shoulda coulda wouldas. And in my personal analysis, all of it comes back to the way that we relate to one another. And once we shift that, we will also shift everything else um, in relationship to creation, and how we do that. And so I just want to pause before I get into um, going in depth about the content. I am Gianni Olamide. I am your spiritual plug. I am here to prick your consciousness, to help you grow in your awareness, and to mirror you back to yourself in ways that help you expand. Um, this space is a space to be real, to stay facts, to um, address the truth, address issues as they are, to be vulnerable, um, and to be open so that transformation might happen. I don't do no transforming of nobody, okay? But what I do is, like I said, it creates space so that these things might happen within us. Yeah. And once we see our own shadows, maybe we can navigate them a little bit more effectively within the world in ways that help us all. I run an organization called the Alternative Tribe, where our mission is to provide safe space for Black, Indigenous, and people of color who are looking to engage in growth, development, cultural development, and community support by bringing together what we already have and what we've already created amongst us, right? So generating a network that allows us to be able to have some kind of infrastructure. But if you've been looking for your tribe, then I would like for you to make sure you are subscribed at www.thealternativetribe.com. Okay, like that. Make sure you subscribe. That way you tapped in. We do a lot around youth programs and youth development, like I said, cultural education, and basically helping us learn about who we are and who we've always been, and what that looks like in a context where we've been removed from it, right? Because society keeps us from being able to live into our truth. One, to be able to access it, right? Because if we're not telling our own stories, we're also not becoming aware of our own narrative, but creating a space for us to be back in tune with ourselves. So, thank you all for being here, for your time and for your energy and for your investment into yourself and to the content of what we will be discussing tonight. Um, if I say anything and it get good to you, feel free to hit that cash out. Y'all don't see it over here because, like I said, I can't bless y'all over here on Instagram. However, I'm gonna put this here in the chat. Feel free whenever something hits you in your belly that you wanna send an affirmation of around. Always feel free to bless that thing. It's no pressure, no harm, no foul either. But like I said, before we begin, there are a few things that I want to establish about the values of how the spaces that I abide in work, right? So we have group agreements around how we're going to conduct ourselves in order to be able to keep this space safe for what it is that we came to do here tonight. And so tonight, this space is made safe by the acknowledgement that everybody who come into this chat, these comments, these if you on here and you Black and you trying to get down with this knowledge and you understand the purpose by which I have already professed and you have made the choice to still be here, we give you thanks for making that commitment. But all of us who come to this space are sacred and have sacred inherent worth. No member of the body reserves to ever be toxic to it. And when we heal ourselves, we heal our community and our collective culture. And that's really it. Everybody who comes to the space is sacred. No member of the body reserves the right to be toxic to it. And when we heal ourselves, we heal our community and our collective future. If you cool with that, drop a period in the comments. Let me know that you with it. Let me know that you are with it. Now tonight, we are going to go a few places. Okay, so I want to just give you a little map before we begin. We're going to start and we're going to talk about where we are. What's our reality statistically and what does that mean? And what potential really lies ahead at hand presently, okay, based on those statistics and where we are. Okay. with all the potential that's available, if we were to use it, what does a process look like for how we can start to shift, start to change things a little bit, our trajectory? And how does this book fit into that, right? What does it have to offer us that I find that so valuable to address this fucked upery of statistics and reality that exists in our experience right now? And so, yeah, the first thing is the data and the statistics that you will see are a blend of the census, the Pew studies, as well as anything that's not census and Pew is named, right? So I think there's only one other, which is a study from the Guardian. But yeah, where are we at in terms of how we are relating to one another? Like I said, I work with people all the time, and everybody has these issues about society at hand. But I tell people all the time, we are society. Like if we want something to change, I don't know who we want to change it. Like I don't know who we feel like we're supposed to go talk to about that. Mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall. That's where we go, right? And so how do we begin in our own immediate relationships, looking at how we can address them in ways that allow ourselves to allow them to fortify us and allow us to be fortified by them, right? Simply by the essence of their nature, because we're being intentional about choosing the relationships that we're going into. And I don't know that we have been. I don't know that we have been being intentional about our relationships. I don't know that we've been being strategic. I don't know that we've been being productive in them. You know, and a variety of reasons potentially factor this. Okay, a variety of reasons in terms of how we have gotten into this condition. Individualization is a very big problem that we continue to struggle with, and not having a collective identity, because that has to be taught in us. But we're gonna talk about how most of us end up off track with that, and again, how we get back on track. So, just to go ahead and to start with some statistics, more than a third of households that Black people live in are headed by married couples, right? And this is as of 2019. But what that means is that 72% of children are born into single parent households. Like, we're gonna start there. 72% of children are born into single parent households. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with single parent households, except that they were not intended to be, right? So when we start looking at the evolution of families and family systems, this is really a modern invention, to the point that in the past, when there were when there were single parents or there was a parent missing, that parent was accounted for and was present and acknowledged, right? So there was not this void that we were experiencing repetitively in our households, that we didn't have an answer about how we were going to feel it, right? So you've had cultures where the women were considered the ones who did the raising or the child rearing, right? And the fathers were either hunter gatherers who were gone to secure food and to secure resources, but who also came back regularly. And there was a system in place of understanding where the children knew exactly where their fathers were and when to expect them, right? Whether that's only in harvest season, in harvest season, where they're not out actually hunting or gathering, whether and it just depends. But in agrarian life, this was normal. So when we start looking at how we got into this condition, which is a direct product of colonization and slavery, because in our own systems, again, we were always accounted for. Our people were always accounted for. The nature of our relationship was always understood and explicated in ways that it wasn't confusion about what was happening. When we acknowledge these things and the shift, we got to ask ourselves, how did we get to a place where it's 72% single parent households in our community? right? Like I just said, it is a direct product of slavery and colonization, which you will have some people that will argue that the Moynihan report that came out in 1954, I want to say the Moynihan report was released in 54, that was based on the trends that were happening in the community around there being more single parent households. And it wasn't that there were more single parent households, but when you got one man who's making multiple families, that man is only one person and he can only be in one household. He can only be accounted to one, right? So if he has multiple families, regardless of how we didn't figure out how to navigate that in our communities or not, right? Because we don't never talk about the experiences or the realities of grandma and great grandma and what it was that life was like for them. We have romanticized their experiences in ways that make us feel like there are some glory days to return to, when in reality, since slavery, we ain't had shit glorious to return to. We got to reestablish whatever that culture is that we've learned about or that we know internally still lives within us that must be brought forward, right? And that becomes an intuitive matter and not an intellectual one by itself. And so when we start putting these things in perspective, things start changing simply because we can put them in their rightful place. The stories of Black women are sacred. Let me say that first of all. The stories of Black women are sacred. And more stories by Black women have not been told because of the believability that we have placed in our community on people's truth and the judgments that we put behind whether or not they're true or not based on how they make us feel, right? So if somebody tells us a truth and we don't like the way that truth feels to us, we'll deny its possibility of existence in order to remove ourselves from the emotion that it's creating in us. Also placating us from being able to address whatever is inside of that thing. So the struggle is when we start talking about all of the reasons why single parent households exist, it comes down to whether or not we're going to acknowledge that there has to be some level of responsibility and accountability that gets taken by us as a people. Not placing the blame, not playing a blame game, right? Because all of us got some level of blame that's involved in here one way or another. Like we do. We all have some level of blame. And I say that in terms of men and women. Survivalism only is meant to last for so long. And because we are no longer in a state where we are perpetually fending for our survival, the way that we approach being productive and creating things for ourselves, our families, and our communities has to shift as well, right? If we always on the run and trying to figure something out, or we are always trying to put the pieces together, that's very different than when we have certain pieces that we have access to that we can then create from. We've been in some level of a peacetime for a little while, at least 30 years, okay? At least. And when I say some level of a peacetime, it may not be a completely active peacetime, but it's been enough peace where there's not been a necessary active war being waged against us in ways that we've historically seen it. It's not to say that the systems that are in place are still not working against us or disenfranchising us in ways that we don't have to think beyond, because that's always been in place. And we should actually expect that to stay in place based on the powers that be need to preserve itself, right? When we start talking about surviving and survivalism and how we approach that. There's this other piece that we've got to create space for that really gives us room to I lost my whole thought right there. I was really reaching for something. I was going somewhere. And I was in the middle of talking and I just totally forgot what I was gonna say. I'm gonna make sure that we remove this part of the tape. So I'm just gonna give a couple of seconds to where we can pause and cut that shit out. Cause I apologize, y'all. I got so many thoughts coming to me. Somebody tell me that thought. What was I talking about? Y'all ain't listening either. So yeah, I'm finna go back to these notes because the statistics aren't here. But we really got to figure out how we got to that point where it's we're uncorrectable. I think when Amos Wilson talks about the nature of our condition, he calls us both arrogant and ignorant in the sense that many times we have not placed ourselves in positions to learn better. Um, and we're arrogant in the sense that we don't feel like there's anything that we need to do better. And it's not going to serve us. So 72% of our households are single parent. Let's start there. We understand that. We also recognize that when we start talking about relationships, there are other things that are directly connected to that. Um, and so we start thinking about finances, right? So if there's only one income in the household, that also means that there's already a lower income to that one household. Because if there were two people, two partners, then it would be double. But as of 2019, the median income in Black households was only $44,000, right? So when we start thinking about the cost of living, what it costs to live, even if you're a single person, right? I can just think about myself. Uh, an apartment. First of all, I live in Arkansas, right? And I did that by choice because it's one of the cheapest places to live in the country. Okay, this is home. I'm grateful for that. The South is still winning when it comes to prices, unless you live in a major metropolitan area, right? So living in a Dallas is very different than living in Little Rock. But what I can say is that the median or the average rent that's out there right now is $1,180, right? And that's for like a two-bedroom, and that don't matter where you are in the United States. So if you start there, and we're not even talking about utilities, gas or transportation, food, leisure, anything else, right? Like 44,000. God forbid you got a kid. The average cost of a kid is 14,800 per child annually, and that's not including any luxuries, any type of recreation, any type of quality of life stuff. We're talking about just bare minimum basic living, making sure you got what you need, right? So $44,000, we ain't got no quality of life with that. We barely surviving. We're still trying to figure out how we gonna make it. Then you add to that the direction that society is moving in. We anticipated between technologies institution and AI and all of that, by 2053, the median household income by 2053 for the Black community is predicted to be zero, right? We're at 44,000, okay, which means at some point this is going to start rapidly declining, rapidly, right? So if we're not investing in technology and learning how to be in dominating industries that are preparing to take over, we're going to struggle. We're going to struggle. The predicted median household income in 2053 will be zero based on automation and technological developments and our lack of economic marketplace control, right? So aside from the technology development that's happening, when we start looking at what industries do we control, right? Not in, and maybe not even control, what industries are we dominating, right? Because there's a lot of money that's moving, right? So you can have a lot of access and have a large market share and corner that market share and not completely control it. But what are those industries? Y'all can drop it in the comments. Let me know. Because even when we start talking about food and restaurant tours, we still in startup mode. When we start talking about the finance industry, whether we're talking about mortgage or insurance or lenders and brokers or like any of that, we'll start talking about real estate. I'm talking about the development and general contracting or construction, being able to do acquisitions for large level commercial properties and residential. Like what industries are we dominating, y'all? Because in the event that we were dominating, not even necessarily controlling, but dominating a large market share, then we would also be able to produce more jobs for our own people. And this is me just trying to figure out where we are, right? This is economically, right? Because we got our money spread out. Everybody's single. Everybody got their money in individual households, and we are not joining and coagulating our resources in any shape, form, or fashion, right? How are we building power in that regard? We start looking at marriage. Marriage is on the decline. Okay. And in 2019, only 30% of African Americans were married, compared to 48% of all Americans. All Americans is code word for white folk. But when you start looking at other cultures, there's an even bigger gap, simply because when other folk come to America, they bring their culture and customs with them. They don't come over here and adopt what already exists within the Western world. They bring what come from their land, right? So us living in America, to some extent, being homeless orphans. And I say being homeless orphans because those of us who know our people who are already here are still disconnected from those systems and that culture that existed, that they lived and thrived in, even still being able to put a finger and a name and a resource on that. But also, if your people wasn't indigenous to this land and you ended up arriving because your folk got brought over here, then you got to have an awareness of what that land originally was in order to be able to be reconnected to it. And so most of us don't have that either. And so when you start looking at what that means, like I said, when you start looking at other cultures who bring that with them from their land, the numbers are higher. Way more of our colored brothers and sisters in other countries get married than we do. Okay. So we start looking at us in comparison to Americans. We all low over here in the Western world because we got this heathenist tradition. by most standards in the world, we are heathens over here. Oh, period. But yeah, 50% of African Americans have never been married, compared to 34% of all Americans, and the numbers are steadily increasing. And so when we recognize this, and this is not a study that is advocating for marriage, okay? Not here to advocate for marriage. What I am here to talk about is the usefulness of institutions, and marriage is an institution, right? When you study how things have culturally developed, a lot of times it started with individual families. And in other places, arranged marriages are the norm. And they are orchestrated for the purpose of the people, not for the individuals themselves, which is a Western concept that we abide by. Right? Me, I'm on the pursuit of happiness. It's about what I want, and really nothing and nobody else matters. But also, if I don't have a collective community that I am constantly engaging in and interacting with, that I can be accountable to, I have no reason to be conscientious of these things either. If I don't have no village of people that's looking out for me, I'm not thinking about how my actions are affecting people other than myself. And so that is another piece that we've also got to be mindful of, that the ways in which that we exist now are a product of how we have migrated through time. I'm gonna say that because I don't want to use the word assimilated. even though that's what we've done. The ways we have migrated through time around our need to survive. Um, and the institutions that have come out of there in that survivalism are what, for ourselves. And when I say institution, I mean by definition an organization, an establishment, a foundation, a society, some group that's devoted to the promotion of a very specific cause or program, specifically one that's for public, educational, or charitable cause. Right? So when you and your people get together and you decide we're going to do this for the group, as a group, for this purpose, and it's going to benefit this, that's an institution. What marriage was. That's like when it first started, it was when you start looking at the building of power, it wasn't folk getting married just because they liked each other. It was one family that was connecting with another family, because if we come together, we're going to join these things that are going to result in this power, right? It is an establishment. It is founding something, right? That's going to be a vehicle for something else. And so, communally, that's what I said. This is not for the promotion of marriage in and of itself, but it is a real conversation about what institutions, by definition, are we creating and establishing that are allowing us to be fortified. And what I recognize in and what's actually happening in our communities, the numbers tell us a lot. And since the pandemic has started, we've had more Black businesses that have been being created than we have seen in a very, very long time. Hold on, I think it said it's about 30% or something. Hold on. Yeah. Black-owned businesses have increased by 30% since the start of pandemic, largely in part to Black women, right? Which in my mind, I'm imagining Black women also want to be able to reclaim control of their time and their schedule. Because the pandemic been hard. When you start looking at Black women and then you start looking at the single mother statistics that we talked about at the beginning of the video, the 72%, 72% of Black mamas out here by themselves got to figure out how to make it work, okay? They got no help. They got no help. And maybe they do, but the statistics are what they are. When you look at reclaiming, it's interesting that we have so many Black businesses that have been started since the beginning of the pandemic. Yet in April of 2020, we lost close to 450,000 Black-owned businesses, which was a 41% drop from the others, right? That is what we got to be concerned about. We got us opening businesses at an exponential rate, but we're also closing them at just an equal, or no, not even just equal, but at a higher one. Really, when we look at the ratio of where they're getting started at, right? So now we're talking about retainment and sustainability. So we can start stuff, but we ain't been seeing it through. That's what the data is suggesting. And so our ability to be able to see things through, for me, is directly connected to systems management. What kind of support do we have? What kind of infrastructure exists? And if we're not creating that amongst ourselves, we're not going to have none. But the family is the first line of structure, right? So if we ain't got no structure in our households, we don't have no order, we don't have no systems in place, then the question is, how do we even expect that we will look for this in other places? Or what we've learned, whether it be right, not right, regardless of the judgment of how we want to call its usefulness, is that going to convey? And I would like to suggest that it would, based on the nature of how we move in paradigms, right? How we move in patterns and in our emotional bodies, in terms of the way our minds help us operate. We're more educated than we've ever been, but we've also been more removed from a cultural practice that is ours. So we've been being educated by Eurocentric institutions, their schools. Over 66% of Black folks still identify as Christian, which, if we talk about Christianity in the state that it presently exists, is also a Eurocentric institution that was built on the backs of Black folk who got killed from a variety of religions in the name of power and dominance. And I'm talking about Gnosticism, I'm talking about Zoroastrianism, I'm talking about a variety of other spiritual systems, right? We're going to talk about Christianity in this authentic form, then we got to go to the Coptic Church, because the remnants of what's left there was a part of the Gnostics. That's the folk who ended up getting their head cut off because they didn't want to convert, but whose teaching also has been given to us. And what we now understand as Christianity, even though there was more that existed prior to, right? And so when we start looking at our subscriptions and what it is that we presently subscribe to, we're not going to get there from here, right? We're not going to get to a free state of mind by using the education and the teachings and the indoctrination and the culture and the tools that the oppressor has given us that we have not sifted through in order to find the original remains of ourselves in, and then going there and building. That's what this is about. That's what we're doing right here. The goal of this is to be able to go back to where the remains have taken us. Not to simply be satisfied with what has been bestowed in our laps. There's more. And that's the beauty of learning, is that there's always more. Even with us and ourselves, there's more. Even when we feel like we didn't figure or learned or mastered something, there's always more. And so when we look at this, in terms of our healing and where we're going next, there has to be a shifting of our paradigm in order for our thinking to move in a different direction. And if we not undergoing an intentional shifting of our paradigm, we are literally moving from the same energy and teachings that got us where we are now. Now, a paradigm ain't nothing but a model. It's a pattern. It's something that has been ingrained through repetition. Oh, something we done seen, heard, experienced, been around. It's the over and over and over and over and over. Okay, and this stuff right here. This is the stuff that I really enjoy learning more about, because this part has been liberating for me. Learning how to shift the paradigm for me is what gives me hope that the condition that we've been in ain't the one that we got to keep being in, because it's a tangible process for how to redirect your behavior consciously, right? So when we look at our body ain't nothing but a mass of energy that's moving at a very, very high speed of vibration, okay? That's what a body is. And the word that describes this high rate of vibration that we're having, right, that's keeping us together, is feeling. Feeling is how we describe our vibration. When you ask somebody, how you doing today? Oh man, I'm great. I'm great. Oh man, I'm feeling blue. I'm not really having the best day today. I'm not. People are telling you where they're resonating at, what frequency this vibration is on, whether we high functioning or whether it's low, that's the only thing somebody tell you when they say, how are you feeling? How are you doing? They're giving you their energetic marker, and one of my favorite mentors on this was Bob Proctor, God rest his soul, man. Bob just recently transitioned. But Bob describes a paradigm as a multitude of habits. Habits are programmed by what I just said, repetition, right? And so when we start thinking about how we get to these understandings that we have, everything starts in your mind. Everything starts in your mind. We have these thoughts. right? And these thoughts are impressed upon our subconscious, but our thoughts come from somewhere, right? So you have these intuitive and these organic thoughts that bubble up from within, and then you also have within your subconscious, right? Because what's intuitive and what comes from within is internal, right? It's already within you. It's subconscious. But then you on that same subconscious, you have these other thoughts that we receive, right? That we get filtered through our senses. And those thoughts that get impressed upon our subconscious then get filtered into our conscious, and we decide how we're gonna feel about them and what we're gonna do with it. But regardless of how we decide we're gonna feel about them, our original response mechanism is going to be whatever our habitual practice has been, regardless of what we said we're going to do consciously. You know what I'm saying? We in charge of how we feel. And I don't know if people believe that we have that much power over ourselves, but I need us to know that we really are in charge of how we feel. And it is not some pseudo illusion, but it's our ability to make a decision and then to move our energy in the direction that's inclined to that decision that we've made. And the only way that we do that is to understand our relationship to our mind and our body to our mind. You know, your conscious mind is the one that your senses is connected to, your senses and your thoughts. Your thoughts turn into pictures. Your pictures go to your subconscious. Your subconscious then expresses your action. Your action is then what produces a result. That is an entire process. It is an entire system. Once you understand that that is the process and the system by which things are actually created amongst us, then you have the power to be able to subject any thought in your mind that brings itself before you under the subjection of whether or not it belongs. Now we're talking about being able to control these things. And this is where I need my damn, I need to clean this board out. My whiteboard. Because 2 seconds, y'all. Lord. This is where it pays to have it together. Let me clean this whiteboard off. Just because Bob always draws this diagram that I see in my brain why don't the Lysol wipe want to come out? I don't know. But in terms of the mind, you know, you got your little brain and your big brain. Your little brain and your big brain. And boy, when they start working together, you start learning how to talk to the different brains that you have appropriately for what you want them to do. As long as it's in alignment with their functionality, you will watch them work for you. And that, to me, is power. When you can will certain things to and for yourself, through yourself, by the virtue of the understanding that you have. Now I gotta find a marker, y'all. I got stuff that don't go. Whiteboards and no markers. Okay. 1 second. Have one more. I'm definitely gonna have to refill this little segment here. I'm gonna tell y'all that. Because I just had that marker. And it ain't in this one. Okay. Okay. Okay, maybe y'all ain't supposed to get no notes today. Maybe I'm just supposed to talk to y'all. But Your subconscious and your body come with you. It's a blank slate. Like when we talk about how babies come here and the age-old conversation of nature versus nurture, and whether or not we come here good or bad, or we are nurtured into a specific way of being or behaving or acting. Um, and it's both. It's both. So we don't come here completely programmed. We come here with a hereditary predisposition to certain things that will develop based on how the environment that we are groomed in nurtures us. Okay. Because our conscious mind is going to receive senses and thoughts. So whatever is in our environment is going to be given to that conscious mind, right? And the repetition of seeing and hearing and experience, feeling all of whatever that reality is over and over and over and over and over. That is what cements a paradigm, you know? And so we like computers, y'all. And Morpheus talked about this in The Matrix, which I encourage everybody to look at if you have not ever seen it. But we're programmed like our environment in the same way that a computer is programmed by its user. The ideas, the thoughts, the images that a baby receives is what they eventually become. And it doesn't take them long to become it, right? By the time they're 4 years old, we already know pretty much how that baby gonna act based on what it is they've already been nurtured into. By 4 years old. By 6 years old, you about out of time to be able to reprogram, right? Because as the brain is developing and these habits are developing, by the time the child is 6, they have already been established, the patterns, the behavioral patterns, right? And after that, the repetition is the cementing. So between 6 and 8, you got a little bit of reprogram time to get things to revert to go another direction. But after that, it's like gonna be it's going to be very similar to working with an adult. Just in terms of the time and the energy that it is going to take. Now, it can still be done a little bit easier because it's still a child. But in the event that we can have our environments set up to facilitate a holistic way of life for our kids to begin with, the way that we engage relationships as adults will be different, will be a different level of intentional. It'll be a different level of purposeful, right? And strategic, because then we'll have a different way we already approaching how we get to them, as opposed to just letting them happen upon us or wandering into them or falling in love or all of these other variety of ways that we deal. You know, again, our habits are programmed into our subconscious mind, and our subconscious mind is the place that our paradigm is stored in and is ruled by, and that's what controls our behavior. You know, so a lot of times you have people who say one thing and then they'll turn around and do another, and it ain't necessarily because they didn't mean what they said. They meant what they said. They just have been programmed in a different way, where the pattern that's been established is the one that's going to play out. Even if in their mind they want to do something different, it's not the paradigm that's there. And until they do the intentional work of shifting that paradigm, it's going to be what it is. You know, when we understand these things about creation and how it works and how we engage it, then when we see these things in other people's behavior, we'll be a little bit more graceful with them. Because then we'll understand what we're seeing and what we're not seeing. And you can call it instead of being mad about it. And so, yeah, until a person establishes a new program other than what's already been there, you're gonna get what you're gonna get. And that's why it's so important to know how is a person raised, right? What teaching and they and upbringing did they come through? And we don't like to have them conversations. We rather leave that stuff in the past, leave the past in the past. You know, I'm grown now, all of these things. But no, man, you better go back and figure out what kind of struggles people had as kids. You better go out and figure out what they were taught by their parents, what kind of struggles their parents had, what kind of environment they were raised in, what teachings and values they grew up on. Because all of that has a lot to do with the nature of their character. Our paradigm controls a lot of things, including our logic, how we use our time, our perception of situations, our effectiveness, the money we earn, and the relationships that we attract. And a lot of the ways that we approach relationships in terms of what has already been facilitated is a product of pop culture. I cannot find this marker. That is really going to bother me. That is really going to bother me. But pop culture is what has groomed us into a lot of our teaching and thinking. And when I say pop culture, literally going back to Eurocentricity, right? So religion, which is a problem, integration, which is a problem, capitalism, which is a problem, and all of this affects how we engage in our relationships with one another, how we relate to one another. Now, the thing about it is that when we remember who we are and we reclaim the intentionality of walking in that, our problems are not the same kind of problems that they've been because we are actively engaging in the solutions by becoming it. You know, we got to accept that we black, that we human and divine at the same time. And that means something for us in this world in terms of what we can do and create with it. It's an entire body of people that have mounted to weaponize against black folk. And we got to ask why. What are they working to stop or to curtail? And if we don't know it, okay? If we don't know it, if they know it and we don't know it, then that would mean that our enemies know us better than we know ourselves. I think often about, again, how we liberate. And the issue that I have with religion is that it provides us with ritual without an appropriate understanding of the personal, cultural, and communal connection that comes to being in relationship to divinity, right? By outsourcing our power to needing to go through a third party. I struggle when people ask me how how is it that we call ourselves divine? It's because we are what we are. Again, we human and divine at the same time. We got to acknowledge that the spirit part of us is eternal, always has been, always will be. This human stuff, oh man, we're gonna figure it out. But this earth is just a training ground. It's just a place for us to be able to learn, to go through this development that helps us be able to transcend these bodies, this space, this material that's around us. And if we are not engaging whatever our spiritual practice is in a way that allows us to do that, then it is not going to serve us. You know, anything that's going to remove you from your divine self and externalize it and redirect your energy from self-knowledge is not going to serve you. The best thing for you to know above anything else is yourself. And once you learn yourself and your own nature, you can continue to create and create. You know, we are intentional creators. That's what we're supposed to be. So part of what we came here for, in terms of being able to exercise and live out our divine purpose. Everybody got one. All of our souls do. We came here with one. There's a book on my shelf right now called what is it? Sacred Contracts book by Carolyn Mice. But that's what she goes into in terms of the relationships and the people that we meet. Oftentimes are a product of these divine lessons that we have agreed to learn. And the more that we are empowered with self-knowledge on a variety of levels, right? About our spiritual bodies, about these physical bodies, about this life and these people that we've been born and assigned to here. Like all of these things help enhance us and how we move in our nature. We got to let that emanate from us and also go to what that means for us as a people. You know, so once we understand vibration and frequency and wavelength a little bit more, and we also understand the Black historical figures of consciousness, of higher consciousness that took us there, you know, we'll be able to restore some practices that are good for us, that are good for us. You know, integration did a number on us too in terms of eliminating our collective community identity and culture, where we as a people had a understanding amongst us of who we were and of what we were doing and how that was serving us as a body. And we weren't just segmented as individuals. You know, what I appreciate about the spirit of intimacy and what this book provides is that it is a reclaiming of helping us go back to understanding more about that. It's a prescriptive remedy for reorienting ourselves into an understanding of not being rooted in Western Eurocentricity, of the resulting problems of slavery and colonization. Like it's just another view. And we got to be diligent about making sure that we seek indigenous and native systems that don't lead us further into what has gotten us where we are. And so this book, The Spirit of Intimacy, offers us an invitation to go there, to go within a traditional African culture and kind of learn how they promote relationships and being in community with one another. And so the author really didn't come with a theory or an agenda to prove or anything to promote, nothing to really impress upon us, but to just share, to share a different way of being and to tell the story, right? So scholarly intellectualism would have us present information in ways that need to substantiate what's been said with somebody else's sayings and somebody else saying something about what that person said. And she don't do none of that. She just tells the story of her people and what's real for them. And uses the method of kind of storytelling to allow you to let the story resonate with your spirit. To let the story resonate with your spirit. Because the book is spirit-centered, it is inviting us as the reader into a living cosmos where spirit and community and cosmos are all served together. And that requires us to recognize that, you know, anything that got to do with the heart of something is a spiritual matter. We are spiritual beings, and we can't get around that. But we got to also think about the place of spirit in our relationships. Anytime that people come together, it is of a spiritual nature. It's because the spirit has created an allowance or a call. And in that call, there's a response. And so folk respond to the call every time we decide we're gonna come together or no. You know, We be talking about soulmates and shit. Like, man, I just feel drawn to you and your energy, and I don't know why. Ah, spirit. The problem is a lot of times, depending on where we are in our bodies and what our paradigm is and how we've been relating to ourselves, we'll take that call in the spirit and we will mismanage the connection. All right, because all connections require discernment. So just because you feel it, don't mean you're supposed to go and you're supposed to dive directly in it. You know, a lot of times, in our hastiness, in our perpetual moving and not being still enough, sometimes we can miss the signs of what purpose a relationship was supposed to serve. And sometimes we take the long way home and we'll know the purpose that it was supposed to serve, and we'll just decide that we going to do other things in the process and it'll find its own way home. But purpose must be considered in the health and wellness of all relationships. Um, yeah, even the family ones. Even the family ones. What I found in this book is that the author talks about a way of life and of living in community with people that we be dreaming of over here, right? We romanticize and we want it so bad. Want it so bad, not realizing the conditions that those types of cultural conditions are facilitated under. And it ain't how we living over here in America. It's just not. It's a different way of life. You know, they living in the real village, being taught by the elders, going through initiation, you know, having years of mentoring, but also living impoverished and having to, you know, share one water hole and, you know, having to literally lean on each other for life and death every day to have the survival needs to be able to continue on day to day. And it's like, yeah, we ain't used to that experience. I talk to people all the time who be talking to me about Africa, but they ain't never been, and ain't trying to go. Now, I couldn't say anything wrong, but it's just like, hey man, we gotta go get close to the experience. We gotta touch it, taste it, feel it, be there. That way we have the understanding of what it is we say we want, what folks say they're asking for. Now, granted, we missing a lot, but the sacrifices that are required in order for us to have some of these things, we have to make a conscious choice about. Our worldview in the West is very individualized, like I said in the beginning, and that has been one of our greatest killers. You know, the personalized, privatized everything. And belief in individuals leads to privatized relationships. Like if the community is not the center, like that's what can be expected. Like our romantic relationships are the way they are, suffering wise because of the way our communities are with each other. Right? No structure, no order, no structure, no order. And so we can't be mad at one when one follows the other. They're directly connected. And so until we stop allowing relationships to exist outside the context of community, we're going to keep seeing the same perpetuation, you know. And this go back to understanding purpose. All of us were created to be in community with each other, even down to romantic relationships, marriage. Marriage is a gift that requires us to be revealed, or requires to be revealed to us from the spirit what the two people what we'd have been brought together with somebody else for. Because it ain't just to have babies. It's for a larger purpose in the world that should help heal the collective, right? Good, strong marriages are ones that produce things in themselves that then benefit the community. That's how we establish status, ain't it? The status that somebody has is directly connected to what they have given back to community. Do you have a business around here? Do you have investments? Do you have property? What's your stake in the community? What do you have? What are your assets? Where's the proof? And we just ain't made the crossover, the correlation. You know, when we start looking at purpose and relationships, intimacy is directly connected to these things. And even intimacy is not designed for your personal, individual enjoyment and gain. It has more to it. Intimacy is for the fulfillment of one's life purpose. It's for enrichment of the village. It's for expression of the spirit. It means or it is a means of the offerings that we carry and us being able to give those back out, right? So if we're not able to give those back out, or like, what are we doing? What are we doing if we are not able to share and to showcase the gift that the Creator has given us, right? Like, I don't understand where we get this hoarding mentality about the stuff that we got. But I am because you are. The stuff that I got ain't even a product of all my hands, labor, work, gifts, none of that. But it's usually in direct connection to something in somebody else, right? Because then connect. If everything I need I have within me, right, and I am a part of a body, then that means everything that I need I have within my body. So even if it don't come directly from me or my limb, it can come from an extension of somebody else's limb because we all are connected. That's the nature of what a body is, right? And so we got to get to a place where we start looking towards ancient wisdom around the purpose of our communal connections and our relationships and how we engage within the members of the body. You know, purpose is the center of all of this, central to existence, central to the relationships, because that's where the purpose is going to be expressed in relationship to each other, you know? And so understanding this and understanding I'm in relationship every moment of every day with something and somebody, including myself. Okay. Every moment of every day with something and somebody, including myself. When I recognize that my relationships are a means to offer the gifts that I carry with me, then I recognize also that my life is not a pursuit of happiness. My life is a pursuit of creation and of building and of expansion in all its forms. And in fact, the pursuit of happiness is heretical to me being able to live in community as an offering. If we all come as offerings, then boy, we live in the abundance every moment of every day. Every moment of every day, because everybody comes giving. And the more you give, the more you receive, and the more you receive, and the more you give. And that's how you get to infinity, right? The figure 8, the gift that keeps on giving. Just keeps on giving. The more you give, the more you receive. The more you receive, the more you give. Just keep on going and going and going and going. And we got to understand harmony and systems and balance, right? Because we've been off balance for a long time. And we've been putting all the weight in one place. The weight been on 72%. The weight been on 72%. And we got to go back and we got to address that. But the beauty that I appreciate about this book is not a prescription for facts and statistics and putting together a codification of behavior and using it to prescribe certain things knowledge-wise. It is an invitation for you to be still with your spirit and to go within and to listen to the wisdom that she is illumining to see where it resonates within you. You know, and so that is That's that's a new thing for us. And it requires that we put our heart and our soul and our intuition on the line so that it can be nurtured, so that it can be respected, so that these things can be embodied. You know, the indigenous perspective is to invite us into a mature vision, which challenges us to be more of who we are. But culturally, we are in our adolescence regarding intimacy. We are in our adolescence regarding intimacy. And that is important for us to acknowledge. I mean, we got some more developing to do. We're talking about adolescence, that's the stage before you become an adult. Adulthood is maturity. So if we're not adults yet, we're not mature yet in the ways that we live out our intimacy. Jada says this posture requires the passion of people's pain and triumph, healing. Absolutely, which requires vulnerability. And if we're not willing to be vulnerable with each other, we will never get to the healing of being able to move through that passion and that pain and that triumph. But the beauty is once you do it one time and you have witnessed yourself do it, man, you position yourself for the repetition, right? Because if you can practice what you know that you have accomplished one time, and you can continue practicing and continue witnessing the transformation that comes within that practice, then you will continually be transformed. Now, tonight we have made it through the foreword and the introduction of this book, but and also I would like to open the floor up for the few of you that are still here. Um, you got any questions? Go ahead and drop them in the comments, in the chat. I would love to be able to go a little bit further. But the truth is, we are in a state in our relationships, y'all, where we're not together, and we ain't together, ain't been together, and ain't been trying to figure out how we gonna get together. And we got to be willing to sit down with the spirit and be in submission to ancient ways that are still trying to lead us, y'all. This stuff is in our bones, in our blood. It's in our bodies. It has come with us intuitively. And there's a broken veil on access to divine wisdom right now. And we can go there immediately. All we got to do is center ourselves. It's really quite astounding. I'm amazed by it more and more every day, for real. But there's nothing that's keeping us from being able to access this knowledge and to take it and to try it on and to live into it. Grounding is another one. Yeah. Tree hugging. I'm a tree hugger. I'm a tree hugger. But anything that you can do connecting you to nature. And tomorrow we're actually going to talk more about that, the elements and connecting yourself to the elements because they represent different things and fortify different things in us. So whether we're talking about fire or water or mountain or earth or like all of them provide us something. And so we are charged with being in right relationship with ourselves so that we can be in right relationship with other people. Otherwise, all our relationships are gonna stay fucked up. And I hate to say that, but that's the place that we sit in. Like it's do or die. When I say that we have had a great deal of time available to us that has been fairly peaceful, we really have. And we have a little bit left before it's crunch time. And I say that, and people always feel like I'm being an extremist and a conspiracy theorist. But conspiracies happen every day. And there need to be plausible theories to address those conspiracies because the shit is happening. Okay? It's happening. It's happening. Just need to say that again. It is happening. It's happening. But y'all, it's 2022. That's the year right now. I gave you some predictive statistics, but shit is gonna get worse before it gets better. And we got to decide how we gonna move with each other. Because if we do not have our relationships intact, first and foremost, it's gonna be rough. And if we ain't got our relationships in our own household together, we ain't figured out how to do conflict resolution, how to be able to move through confrontation and anger and mixed emotions and the paradigms that exist within our subconscious mind already. We can't even identify those paradigms and name them or where they came from. We're in a bad situation. Because we don't know ourselves well enough to be able to tell other people how to deal with us. Or to probably mitigate conflict when it comes. Because we don't even know our triggers. We just know when they've been pulled. And so on tomorrow, we are going to talk about culture and the spirit. We're going to talk also about community and about ritual and initiation, rites of passage. We got a question. It says, what part of the book shocked you about yourself that you didn't know prior to reading? I think for me, I don't know that any part of the book was a shock. I think there was a resonation for me of a longing and a desire to have the communal relationships in the ways that they have them, but in our context, right? So I can't necessarily tell you that I want to have to go to the well and take turns filling up my bucket of water and some of the shared experiences that they had in order to build the relationships that they had. Some of that I can say I don't necessarily want to go through, okay? But I also recognize that those shared experiences are what are binding for people that help build the camaraderie and the loyalty and the investment in your fellow people. But yeah, I didn't really realize how severely I felt a lack of that until I read what their system was like and how everything had a place for everybody. So that was helpful for me. Oh, I agree. I agree that there is a certain frequency that we don't possess on these grounds, Jada. But what I will also say, and they talking to me over here on Facebook and stuff, y'all better tap in over here Instagram. But the other thing that I'll say is I do think that when we come together, that we have the ability to be able to generate that frequency amongst one another. We haven't been intentional enough with our energy collectively coming together with specific purposes of increasing vibration or accessing certain levels of consciousness. And I think we can. I think we actually can go in there and create new waves. Like I look at certain decisions that happen every day where I know there were people who were adamantly working together on another vibration to make that thing happen. And then you just had folks countering in the spirit. And because everything that we do is spiritual, if we start there, we'll be able to address a lot of our problems. A lot of our problems don't get addressed because we're not starting there. You know, we feel like we've attained whatever wisdom is gonna be able to do it amongst ourselves. And it's just like, yeah, we might can use that because the spirit might have gave it to us, but we still got to put everything under subjection of the great one. There is only one, and I'm always seeking divine guidance and wisdom. Okay, never, never above it. Have an extreme reverence for the cosmic order under which we live. And I understand my limitations in this life. In this life, it's not my only life. When I leave here, there will be more because there's always more. So yeah, like I said, on tomorrow, we're gonna go into culture and the spirit, community, ritual, rites of passage. We are going there. The ancient African proverbs are keys to true liberation of the mind. Trauma plays so much into that. Absolutely, Jada. And that go back to us being able to shift our paradigm and to go into our subconscious and to reprogram what has been uploaded, especially if we know that what has been uploaded is not serving us. And we know when stuff ain't serving us or not, but also the process of getting that stuff off of you is not always the easiest. And so I just want to thank y'all for being here tonight. If you have learned or enjoyed or gleaned something from this that was good to you, please do hit the share button. Make sure that your people get a chance to check it out. Like I told y'all, it's going to be up through Valentine's Day. As I said, the goal of this is for it to be a space where we can get into discussing our reality as it is, our ability to be able to glean into other ways of life and of being that are ours, and to figure out what it looks like to try that on, put that on, to be real, to stay facts, to tell our truth, to address the issues, to be vulnerable with ourselves, and create space to be transformed, you know? So I'm grateful that you have joined me on tonight, and I'll be back again on tomorrow at 7 p.m. So y'all have a great evening, and I appreciate y'all for tapping in.